Hi, I don't know about you, but I've been seeing ads everywhere for a spend tracking app from one of the big banks. And maybe you thought it was interesting, but for me, it's driving me a little crazy. Because the problem is that bank spend tracking apps don't work. Now, my name is Max Phelps. I'm a mortgage broker from Golden Eggs Home Loans. And I'm here to tell you a much, much better way of doing things. Now, the reason that spend tracking apps don't work is because any bank account where you have a debit card or credit card access and that you're going to just spend things as you go or draw out cash is a bit like a colander. Now, if you put all of your pay into that colander, unfortunately, it's all going to leak out. And a spend tracking app is a bit like, it's a bit like trying to cover up one of the holes and going, well, look, this hole here means I'm spending too much money on sandwiches, so I'm going to take my lunch to work and I'm going to cover that hole over, and now I'm going to repeat the process of pouring money into that account, and unfortunately, it all just disappears out again. It's just it disappears out of different places now. So spend tracking apps just don't work from a practical basis, and that's because people tend to spend what they can access. So if you've got access to all your money, you're likely to spend it. And unfortunately, credit cards is one of the really terrible things because they give you access to money you haven't even earned yet. Now, what if I told you that there was a better way of doing things where you can have complete control over your finances? We never have to worry about what you are spending your money on, but you're always able to stay on budget. And there was no way that you'd have an argument if you're in a couple. And also you could make an instant decision. Every time you go to use your card, you'd know whether that was money that you could spend or money that you shouldn't be spending. Now, let me give you a bit of background. I spent 10 years doing things exactly the way most of you did, which is to put all of your salary going into an account with a debit or credit card. In fact, I had a credit card, I swept it in full every month, and then every year I would fall short of my savings goals and I wouldn't get where I wanted to go. And I thought the answer was earning more money. So I worked hard, got promoted, and we even hosted foreign students in our household to try and get a bit of extra cash. But all that happened is that the more we earned, the more we spent. Now, I accidentally found a different way of doing things, and it worked. And then a few years later, I became a mortgage broker. And when I became a mortgage broker, I got to see everyone's detailed finances and figured out who was good at saving and who wasn't good at saving. And what I noticed was that people good at saving did things the way I do things now, and the people not so good at that saving did things the way I used to do things, which tells me that all we need to do is just re-educate people into the way of doing things that works. And it's very, very simple. You need a minimum of 5 bank accounts spread across 2 banks. Now, don't shout at the video because I can't hear you and you might think that sounds complicated. It's not. It makes things super simple. Now, let me explain how the 5 accounts work. The first thing you need to do is you need to separate your transactions into bills and everyday. Now, the reason for doing that is because bills are very predictable in a year, but not very predictable in the pay cycle. It's very easy to work out what your rego is going to be. It's very easy to work out what your rates, your strata, your electric, your gas, all those bills are that you're going to pay, but not so easy to work out in any given week or fortnight or month how much you need for those things. So separating them off makes it super easy to manage from the everyday. And now, because those two things are separate, money in the everyday account, you can spend because it's the bills are already taken care of. But of course, you need to save money. And there's 3 savings accounts you need, a minimum 3. The first one you need is for your long-term savings. And this is to save up the money for a deposit on a house or to buy an investment property or to pay down debt. And this should be a minimum of 10% of your income if you're on a lower income, or ideally 15 to 20% of your income. By the way, if you're still living at home with your parents, that figure should be at least 30% higher. In other words, you should be spending 45 to 50% of your income in your long-term savings. The second type of savings account, which is super important, is holidays. And holidays, of course, are important because that's where we make memories. If you look back at the last 10 years in your life, You'll remember the holidays. You'll remember the people you hung out with, the places you went to. And so we need to be making more memories in the future. But the reason we do these two things separately is imagine you had $5,000 in holiday account and $25,000 in your long-term savings. Well, there's a really good chance that when you come to take a holiday, you would spend $5,000. However, if those two accounts are together and you've got one account with $30,000 in it, what's the probability that you're going to stick to a $5,000 budget now that you're dipping into a much bigger pot? For most people, they'll do one of two things. They'll either take too much out of the pot and spend all their money on holidays, which will mean they won't do any savings for the long term, or they'll be so tight that they'll never go on holiday and then they'll just be miserable, but they'll hit their savings goals. So that's why we do the two things separately. Now, the third type of account you need is for the fun stuff. And the fun stuff could be beauty treatments, it could be gifts, it could be clothes, it could be gadgets, whatever it is that you're into. But if you don't put money aside for those things, then you're not going to be able to do them. Now, you might think this looks familiar if you've read a book by Jason Garfoot called The Barefoot Investor, and it is up till this point. Where we differ is the flow of funds, and this is what really makes it work and work really brilliantly. Because unfortunately, if you paid monthly, getting paid monthly sucks, because there's always too many weeks in the month, and you're always worried about how much money you're going to need for the last few weeks of that month, or especially on a 5-week month. But if you get paid weekly, that sucks too, because quarterly and annual bills, they're a nightmare for you. And of course, fortnightly pay is the worst of both worlds, because you have a pay week and then a not pay week, so you have a great week and then a crappy week, and bills are still a nightmare for you. So let's just spin the whole thing on its head, and let's just get our pay coming in to the other end. Our pay coming into the bills account, and then we drip feed the money into the everyday in a time frame that works for most people, which is weekly. Because we know what we do every week. We know we buy our lunches, we buy our groceries, we buy our coffees, whatever we do, and we know what that is. And if we just give ourselves a fixed amount, that's fine. And if we run out in a week and we've got 2 or 3 days left, we can kind of wait until the next money is due to come in. But if it's a fortnight or a month, you can't wait half a month or half a fortnight until the next pay goes in, and so you'll end up dipping into one of your savings accounts. Now, the best way of moving money into the fun account is monthly. And you might say, but hang on a second, I'm paid fortnightly. But you see, the thing is, the brain is triggered by calendars. So a month is really easy to understand. March, for example, is my birthday, and I'm turning 50 this month, so I would expect this month's money to get spent on me. Well, I hope so anyway. Now, next month, April, is my son's birthday, so that's where the money's going to get prioritized. May is Mother's Day, so then May money is probably going to go on my wife. But then in June, there's nothing much happening. So in June, that's where we might buy some clothes or some gadgets or some other stuff. The point is we're not doing all those things at the same time. And that's what good budgeting is. Now, you then move money into holiday and savings, and all this gets automated. You just set up an automatic weekly or monthly. The holiday and the long-term savings, it could be fortnightly, could be monthly. Whenever you get paid is fine. Now let's look at the banks that we use, because the way that the problem with this system is these things, the mobile phone. And unfortunately, if all of this is done with one bank, temptation is to cheat. And we don't want you to cheat. We don't want you to fall off the wagon. So we're going to split it down the middle, and we're going to do this side with Bank A. And this side with Bank A means that then this side needs to be done with any bank except Bank A. Now, when you're setting this up, you might say, well, I've already got my bills set up to come out from my day-to-day account that I'm using now. And you might also worry about fees. Well, probably your current bank account has a minimum amount required for it. And there's nothing wrong with using your current bank account as your bills account, and then setting up a new everyday and fun account with a different bank that doesn't charge fees or have a minimum amount. And that's banks like MeBank, ING, Citibank, or even NAB. And they'll let you have another account without charging fees. But if you've got a card linked to this one, you need to take it out of your wallet, leave it at home, or cut it up. Stop walking around with it. It's dangerous. Now, once you've got that set up, then All you need to do is just make it work. Now, if you've got questions, please put them in the comments part of our Facebook page. Please tag any friends that you think that can benefit from this, share it of course, and subscribe to our channel. My name is Max Phelps. I'm from Golden Eggs Home Loans, where we help you grow your golden eggs.